All right, how's it going, everyone? Lego fans and Lego Master fans alike. I'm coming back at you, Zach Kaplan, along with Thrawn and my roommates Jake and Andrew. We just watched episode 8, the Puppet Show episode of Lego Masters. Just to give a recap, last week we had the Wind Challenge. Pretty wild one, honestly. I know, Thrawn, you weren't able to come on last week, so do you want to give your 2 cents real quick before we get on to this new episode?
Yeah, sure. I thought it was a pretty cool challenge. It was really fun to watch people's designs for some sort of wind energy related thing. So I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, Jake, what did you think?
I also enjoyed it. I think some of them were able to withstand the wind better than others, and that was the most interesting element of it for me. But overall, yeah, really dope episode.
Andrew?
Yeah, I personally like the challenges more that it's just personal preference. I think I like the non-character based challenges a little bit more.
SWB audio capture not registered.
Like bigger builds and
yeah,
detail,
or physics
like
challenges. Yeah.
So it's those I tend to like more. So I really enjoyed that one. Now this one wasn't great too, but it was one of my favorites definitely.
All right. So if you're tuning in now, I hope you guys watched the most recent episode of Lego Masters, episode 8, the puppet episode. Now, this one was weird. It was definitely out of the wheelhouse. I don't think there's been one moment I've been looking online at AFOL's designs and seen actual legitimate, working puppets. And not only do they have to build a puppet, but they have to choose another pair to work with and create a sort of story. So this one really came down to the design looking smooth, not as blocky and chunky, which unfortunately some did, and also being able to withstand, two people puppeteering and doing all the actions. How much can the face move? How much can the body move around? And I just want to say, for me, I love when Will Arnett kind of tosses, a wrench into the situation and has a little more fun with it. And I think puppet Will Arnett was pretty great, just the dynamic and the puppet acting as if he's gonna be stealing the show. Just really solid episode. I think the comedy was great, and they also while the whole puppet theater wasn't Lego, they did build a lot of Lego around it, so it was cool to see just Lego incorporated in literally everything, even the actual puppet stage. So yeah, great episode. We have DJ Alistair watching, David Barrios, Bios Girl says, yeah, already watched it, never thought working Lego puppets could actually be a thing. Yeah, I know, right? But wouldn't be surprised if people find inspiration from this episode moving forward amongst the AFOL community and kind of making their own designs. So without further ado, we'll move on to the first puppet that we're going to be talking about today, and that was Michelle and Natalie's Betty Bricks Singing Grandma Diva. I guess to get started, I'd like to go ahead and just
SWB audio capture not registered.
Go ahead and give us your 2 cents on this. Now they were also in the bottom 2, keep in mind. So they had a little trouble, let's just say that. Thrawn?
I thought this was honestly the worst one. It was so big and it was so blocky. I just didn't enjoy this one. The inspiration was good. Their performance was good. Just the fact that it broke, I thought should have made them automatically be eliminated. The mouth movement was good,
yeah,
but still, all in all, it did not look as good as everyone else's.
Yeah, unfortunate. I agree. For a while when they were talking about their design, they were saying I think Michelle and Natalie were talking about how oh look, it's her grandma. It reminds me of her grandma. She realized I was taking some real life inspiration from the design. But at the end of the day, when you look at the structure, it is a little bit blocky and a little bit heavy. A big note that the judges were making as they were going from team to team is make sure it's not super heavy, because when you're moving around and trying to attribute some action and some movement to these characters, it's very easy to fall apart. And while I think it's a little unfortunate that just an arm breaking is what disqualifies that, adds to disqualifying them to be in the middle or the top. It's unfortunate because that seems like such a minute thing that even the best of Lego Masters wouldn't think about. But here's the thing. If you watch that arm break, the right arm of the grandma puppet, it was literally being held together by one ball socket, right, Thrawn? I mean, it was literally like just one
Yeah,
of
it
those.
was a single
like,
ball joint.
What you use sometimes to make some of your mech creations, but it was just so not reinforced at all. And I think that was just the end of that was their downfall, at least, and why they were in the bottom two. Jake, what did you think of Betty Bricks?
Yeah, well, it's interesting you bring up the ball socket thing because
SWB audio capture not registered.
That too.
Right.
Maybe I didn't see it. I might be wrong, but I'm pretty sure the DJ Jamaican guy was built the same way with those types of arms. So my suspicion is that maybe that is actually a good way to do the puppet thing, especially because most puppets are kind of built like that, where they have like different separated limbs. Like the look of the ball socket works in that way. But I think it was the operating that screwed them over on this. Like that probably was kind of secure, and then they just weren't like coordinating moving the puppet in a safe way, and it just snapped.
Yeah.
But I'm curious when we look at the other builds. Let's see if we can catch that ball socket thing, because
it's hard to
I don't
catch.
think this was the only one that used it.
Right. No, it definitely not. I think there were just some other teams that maybe reinforced it a little better, but you are right. I
think it's a weight distribution thing. I think it matters on how you build the arm. Maybe theirs was more hollow, and Natalie's and Michelle's was more heavy, and that might have just dislocated it when they were moving it around too much. Where I think the Jamaican one, I think it seemed like the arms were shorter and also more empty.
Yeah,
totally,
so maybe that might have been it.
Andrew, what do you think, Betty Bricks?
Yeah, I thought this one should have sent Michelle and Natalie home, but it was still a solid build. I mean, all the builds were great. I don't remember exactly what happens, but I think it fell off because of those shoulder pads. I think the arm clipped with one of the shoulder pads or something like that, and unfortunately it just didn't last. I liked the curls in the hair a lot. The glasses detail was great, but when it comes down to it, this was, I thought, the weakest build.
Yeah, unfortunately, as we'll get into the next one, Lauren and Brian were the ones that had to go.
SWB
but if it had been up to me, and it's
not registered.
At this point, every single Lego master is great at what they do. All of these people are really talented. But if I had to have had someone go, at least Lauren and Brian's, as we'll get into, I think was a little more attractive and had some more movement around its head and in general. I think.
Yeah, I feel like part of the reason they went, we'll get into it more, but was a lot of the operating. I think they had some good movement, but it just wasn't really showcased in the performance.
Right. Agreed. All right, so that's Michelle and Natalie's Betty Brick singing Grandma Diva, and they will be moving on to the next challenge. All right, let's go ahead and look at our next one, and that is, I believe it should be, Lauren and Brian. Theirs is the Princess Pup Hazel. Now, I'll give my 2 cents on this. Again, they're a sibling team, and I love rooting for sibling teams, especially when they're pulling from their own dog, right? That's a real story, kind of like how Natalie pulled from her grandma, whereas they still put a part of themselves in the creation. But what I really liked actually about this puppet, is that the ears moved and the mouth moved with the tongue, which was kind of cool. They gave this princess kind of jewelry, the crown. So it's in my opinion, still a more attractive puppet, which is why I'm surprised that they were the ones asked to leave. What unfortunately resulted in them being the bottom two, I think, as well, is just the fact that, again, it's very heavy and blocky. And I think when they're looking for puppet movement, they want the head to move. They want everything to have some cool movement to it. Like you guys said, the Jamaican DJ, which is also probably one of my favorites, had a lot more of that puppet feel to it. So at the end of the day, I, wasn't happy to see Lauren and Brian go, just because I liked their puppet a little more
capture,
than Michelle and Natalie's. But at the end of the day, they were the ones that had to leave. And it's, it's emotional, it's sad, because at this point, a lot of these teams have really worked hard to get here, and they're all very talented. But unfortunately, they had to leave. I guess, Thrawn, what would you say about Lauren and Brian's Princess Pup Hazel? Pros, cons?
Inspiration was good. The concept was good. Execution is where it kind of fell flat. It was heavy as well. It seemed like the mouth could not move very well, and the hinging for that was not well enough. Design work was done in there that it was impressive. The movement of the ears I thought was good, but as he said, he focused too much on on his accent and trying to make it seem like an actual play than remembering, hey, this is a building competition. I should show them what my build can do. I understand why they got into the bottom two solely because if you compare it to the rest of them, it makes sense. It is very chunky. A lot of studs were shown where a lot of other people went for more of like a snot design. Right. You could tell. Yeah, that's my thoughts.
Cool. Jake?
Yeah, I just think the other team should have went home because I agree with all the pros and cons you guys said, but I think the cons on the other one outweigh this one. Right. Specifically with the design, because I'm a big fan of like the big like characters and faces.
Big
and, like,
head, big eyes.
That face really looks great, and then the sculpting around it is a lot more dynamic than the other one, which was really blocky. And then the puppetry, it's like the mouth did move a little bit, I think he was just maybe not the best operator.
Right.
But it was also a little wonky there.
SWB
that's the
audio
thing
capture,
with some of these
not
challenges.
registered.
I feel like the derby one, and like any one where like the competitors have to like do something with it, sometimes that can end up like screwing them over a little bit, completely aside from like the design. So but most of the time it's fair and like it makes sense, but sometimes I feel like they maybe got a little bit screwed over here, but maybe not.
Andrew?
Yeah, I mean, I don't have too much to add to what you guys were saying. I just feel like the design was really showcased well. There are some missed opportunities probably along the way, and I think what it came down, like, if that mouth was worked a little bit better, it would have,
pushed them further.
Pushed them through, probably.
Totally.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, we had to say goodbye to Lauren and Brian this week. I don't know if they're watching, but good job. You guys made it to one of the final couple episodes, so insane well built. Like, this challenge was, like, so out of everyone's wheelhouse, I feel. So it was really difficult for all of these builders. And props to all of them for at least putting on a good show. Like, I don't think...
They cut out a lot of the puppet show as well.
Yeah.
They kind of like that maybe didn't work so much, and they were like,
maybe they were like,
I kind of felt
awkward.
The same way about the puppet show challenge I did with the derby challenge. Was like great on paper, but then in execution sometimes it kind of struggled.
Right. Yeah. Totally. This episode definitely had some weird moments and some moments where
they gave a lot of time to like the Will Arnett like puppet thing.
I didn't mind that. I thought it was funny,
which I love, but it's interesting from like kind of the like producer perspective of like, okay, what are the audiences into? Like, I bet people really love Will Arnett as the host, and like they're like, oh, more Will, we need to do more Will stuff. So they kind of like throw in like a whole thing for each episode, which honestly he's like one of the best reality
not registered.
Yeah
because he's like he's so funny.
Yeah, very charismatic. Cool, on to the next one. Next we had Mark and Steven. They did Bernie the Burnt Out Dragon. To get started, they still have the golden brick, and they didn't use it. Now, when I was watching this, I was like, how can you not? And as their build continued to get made, I said, well, they're definitely going to have to use it. Because while I definitely think it's a good puppet, it is a really cool idea, again, what the judges really like about Mark and Steven over the last couple of challenges is that they've been going out of their own wheelhouse. They've been trying new things, like they're layering and the sort of like detailing they've done on not as much stud showing, a lot of really cool like just shapes that have not been as apparent in their earlier builds are apparent here. The wings were great, both hands move, there were even some movement in the eyes and in the mouth, but when I looked at it, I was like, it's very small. I'd say probably out of all of the puppets, it's one of the smaller ones. And, it doesn't really have much on its lower half going on. Like, I think Dave and Richards, theirs had, like, the full body, like an actual puppet. So to this one, it seemed most like a toy and less like a puppet. And it was probably the most amount, next to obviously Lauren and Brian being kicked off instead of Michelle and Natalie, that I disagreed with the final decisions in this episode. I don't think that like Mark and Steven deserved to be in the bottom, so they would have been good with the golden brick still having not used it. But I do think like, you know, it's them legit like winning over even, as we'll see, Zach and Wayne's creation was kind of like confused me a bit. It kind of blew me out of the water. I was like, wow, I didn't see that one coming. But anyways, that's just my opinion. I still thought it was a really cool build, and like the wings movement was also a great addition. Thrawn, we'll take it to you.
The puppet, I think, I realized that I was muted while trying to scream about the puppet. I'm pretty sure that puppet's actually from an adult TV show.
The dragon?
I'm dead No, the puppet that is working with Will Arnett, that's supposed to be like Will Arnett's co-host.
Okay.
That puppet is from like a adult TV show that I'm pretty sure ended up. I don't know if it's still going, but I'm 100% seen that puppet before.
Okay.
Moving on to the dragon. Dragon hands down won. It makes complete sense. The sculpting on this dragon is beautifully done.
Right.
You cannot see any studs on it, as they say. And they took a lot of effort into making sure that the mechanisms and systems inside of this dragon work flawlessly, which was very smart on them. Yeah, it's a little smaller compared to others, but because they went a little smaller, there is way more detail, there was way more refinement in its size and design shapes. The eyebrow movement was amazing. I have no idea how they did that. Well, I have a couple ideas, but no exact idea. Arms worked really well. The expression's very good. The concept is very funny. I think all in all, they knocked it out of the park.
Totally, and they're incredible builders. So, yeah, like you said, Thrawn, them going out of their wheelhouse and really working on sculpting, I think, is definitely what got them the win here. Jake, what do you think?
Yeah, I don't know. I had like a bad feeling about their build for like a while during the episode. And then they kind of came through in the end in a lot of different ways. But yeah, there was something, I think it was the size that like wasn't totally doing it. And then also like the face and the eyes for a puppet. It's like its mouth is kind of like the biggest
taking
feature.
over, yeah.
And I don't know what's going on in, like the stomach area, but like
SWB audio capture
green,
not registered.
Yeah.
It's cool.
It's cool details. Yeah. But I don't know. I guess I'm drawn to like the bigger things, like I've said. But that's the weird thing about this challenge is like they never really said anything about size, like when they like set up the challenge. So it's like.
They were like,
this was maybe unexpected because it wasn't as big as the other ones, but it was maybe exactly what the judges were looking for when it comes to like the dynamic movement and all that. So, I see why it won. I do see why it won. I think design wise, maybe not my favorite though.
Totally. Andrew.
Yeah, I think like sculpting wise, it stood out the most for sure, and I think that's what the judges were really drawn to. It sounded like that's what they were looking at the beginning of this challenge, is like who is going to hide the fact that it's Lego the best, you know? And I think Mark and Steven did the best job in creating something that just doesn't look like Lego at all, and it functionally great. It worked well. I think where I have qualms with them winning over the other puppet, Zach and Wayne's, is Zach and Wayne's was the most functional puppet, like something I could see in a puppet show. And I guess, the dragon I could too, but compared to all the features that one had, the use of the foil, the fencing foil, as like an accent in the puppet, like I just thought those details were like really wowed me personally, and I was impressed that like they were able to do that much with it. But I see why the judges might lean to this one, because Zach and Wayne's, we'll get more into it, but is more what you would maybe expect from somebody doing Lego sculpting of like a human-like character.
Totally. Yeah, and it's hard. It's like a dragon puppet is going to be a lot harder than a human puppet as far as like coming off like a puppet. And I think, like you said, we're going to get into it when we get to Zach and Wayne's, but the
SWB audio capture not registered
wasn't as apparent in this build. But again, it's up to the judges, and the judges thought the sculpting here was incredible. And regardless of whether Mark and Steven had the gold brick or not, they really tried something new and kind of went out of their element this time. Bioscrowl says the dragon is probably also his favorite. Definitely strong in sculpting and expressiveness. Totally, I hear you. All right, cool. Next, let's talk about Caleb and Jacob's Samantha the Sassy Princess. This was funny because I would never have thought Caleb and Jacob would do like a princess, but they did it, and I think they really pushed forward characteristics. This puppet is supposed to have like an attitude, so they really focused on eyebrow movement, eye movement, and mouth movement. So everything is connected, and there's just so much going on probably on the inside of this body that they were working on, while at the same time keeping its hand movements going. Just like, honestly, Caleb and Jacob are still just so solid, and you can see why they've continued to move. I think even the like texturing on the hair and the kind of way that they sculpted her hairpiece is really cool as well. That tiny little princess tiara too. Just overall, really awesome build. I think it also kind of had that big head that we saw with a couple of the other ones that wasn't as apparent with like David Richards or Mark and Stevens. That kind of a lot of people went with, but it worked well. I think it worked the most with Samantha the Sassy Princess. So overall, I thought it was great. I think their big note to Caleb and Jacob was just like the amount of expressiveness that was in this character was very prevalent. So, Thrawn, over to you. What did you think about Caleb and Jacob this week? Viewers of the show, by the way.
Really like this one. I think they did a super good job. The body is very interesting on how they did the slopes on the sides. I thought that was very clever. I liked how the arms are literally connected by, I think, like a string,
SWB audio
which is
capture
very funny,
not
but
registered.
Also the best way to do it, because then you have all of the movement you need without it ever popping off. Cough, cough. The hair is a little blocky. It still kind of has that, Roblox looking aesthetic to it for the head, but the eyebrows and the eyelashes and the eyes are very expressive. 1 second. Yeah. Never mind. Okay, that was my grandma.
No, but I agree. The eyebrows are very expressive. It does have a little bit of that Roblox blockiness going on.
Yeah. So all in all, I really enjoyed it. I thought it was very cleverly designed. I think it sucks that they couldn't also do a dragon. I would have loved for both of them to do a dragon and have a dragon off. That would have been more entertaining for me personally.
Right. They were paired.
But I can also understand not wanting to step on someone else's toes. So it makes sense on why, someone had to be the bigger man, you could say. But they're also like good friends, as I've seen on the YouTube channel, Cheesy Brick Studios. Channel.
They are. I'm glad that they worked together too. Oh, Cheesy Studios writing in. Yeah. I think we focused too much on the movement that we did lose some of the aesthetic. I still think it is our most nightmare fuel build. Totally.
Yeah, that's fair.
No, Caleb and Jacob, yeah. I agree. I can see what you guys are saying there because one strong point though that I think saved you guys is that the arms were being held on by the strings and not actual sockets. So that definitely helped with the the potential of those arms falling off was definitely lessened by adding that on as well. And at the end of the day, I could see that, the movement was your main focus. But obviously the judges really liked that. Seeing the eyebrows, the eyes, and the mouth move, all three kind of points of articulation within the face of the puppet
SWB audio
kind of those
capture,
highlights that I definitely
not
think
registered.
saved you guys and helped you guys stay in. So, yeah.
I definitely will say that the because they were working on it last minute, remember? I think the neck connection was super not, like, covered up at all. It was just the turntable there and, like, some Technic connections without any, like, sculpting on it at all. So that probably didn't help as well.
No, totally.
But all in all, still super good, though.
Yeah. Jake?
Yeah.
They're watching right now.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
When the round started and Mark and Steven and you guys were talking and you wanted to do a dragon originally.
Right.
And that, I just thought it was really cool how you guys adapted to that getting thrown at you, because I know, like, I'm a creative person, and when I, like, get excited about an idea, like I have so much fuel and energy to like make it happen. So to suddenly shift and be like, okay, we're not going to do a dragon, we're going to do a princess, and then just kind of go with it, and then like be able to turn something like this out, that like is a testament to your ability and creativity. Because I mean, you know, whether you ended up doing the dragon or doing this, it like didn't really matter because you kind of just went all out.
And the princess was bigger than the dragon.
Yeah, that's what I thought was like the most badass thing about it.
Just good size. Yeah, Andrew, how about you?
Yeah, I thought it was interesting. The most dynamic combo of like puppets. You know, obviously each team needs to compete and like play to their own strengths, but the princess and the dragon is such like a classic story that like immediately when I saw the two puppets interacting together, I thought it was like it really worked. And I think the princess kind of carried between the two of them in the performance as well, in terms of like character and just bringing that to life. And it was unexpected from Caleb and Jacob.
Definitely.
So I thought that was super. They did a great job with that. And it was a great build. The one thing that took me out of the puppet was having to have the hands all the way up in the head and not having some kind of movement to the mouth that could be, you know, below without being seen. Took me out of the character's experience a little bit, but all in all, it was, you know, an amazing build. Again.
Yeah, it's hard to do when you have so many things you need to focus on, and like you're used to building so much that is not like this at all, totally outside of this wheelhouse. Yeah, they also say, I wish they had focused on the string technique a bit more. Right, yeah, it worked out super well. They were quite strong. We definitely nailed the judging for my arms being got nailed in the judging for the arms being too visible. I think we'd been hard-pressed to build a better dragon than those guys anyways. They didn't nail it.
Well, let's see the follow-up. I want to see a YouTube video where you guys
try and build another dragon.
Yeah.
We had fun with the build regardless. The two puppets really played well together. Yeah, definitely the best combo out of all of them. So, yeah, totally agree. Awesome. But great job, Caleb and Jacob, Cheesy Studios. Thanks for tuning in as well. Let's move on to our next one. Number 5 is Dave and Richard. At least I feel like for us, one of our personal favorite teams since the beginning. Just love the way they work. Dave and Richard have been a team that, in my opinion, aren't very what would you say? Kind of like show offs. You know, they very like humble. Don't really talk a lot of shade. You know, just kind of do their thing, and that's why they won 2 times in a row, and I think in total have won 3 times throughout this season. Just like an incredible team, and if I was gonna give like my couple sentences thoughts on this build, it was my favorite build. It looks the most like an actual puppet. I mean, I don't think there was one other puppet that I had like feet and the full body. So I was so surprised when Amy's one of the judges said that it looked a little blocky and uneven, and that's why they were not going to be in the top 2. Because in my opinion, I mean, this was my favorite puppet because it seemed like Jamie actually was very into the movement of the head, moving all around. Not just forward and back, not just left and right. It could move in many different directions. I think the dreadlocks hair effect was also just really cool. And in the end, when you're told to build a puppet, I'm assuming it's like marionette, right? Like from head to toe, full body. And this was one of those that I think fully encompassed what a puppet should be. Its head isn't blocky, Roblox sort of cringe looking like a handful of the other ones were. And at the end of the day, I was just surprised that the tones, the colors, all in all, the headphones even, I think this one had that puppet lifelike feel. The most out of all the creations, and I guess they just didn't want to give David Richard a 4th win 3 times in a row. I guess they were like, we can't, we have to save it for for another guy. But I mean, if I'd been a judge and I'd been there, I would have given it to David Richard. So, and also he put a bit of his personality in it. He was a DJ and all that, so that's really cool. So. End of the day, I really loved this. This is my personal favorite. DJ Treats, a reggae DJ. Thrawn, on to you. What did you think?
The head design was super good. I really liked the way the head was done. I really liked the way the appendages were done. The legs I don't really care for because, as you saw when they were playing with the puppet, it looked like they actually detached the legs for the puppet section and then put the legs back on when showing it to the judges, which would make sense because if you're not putting the puppet all the way up, you don't need legs, so it would be easier to just take them off. I can understand why they didn't get into the top 2 solely because, yeah, the head's super good, but you need to look at the rest of the body, and the body itself does
SWB
really
audio
have
captured,
that really
not
chunky,
registered.
super studded look if you compare it to the people who were at the top 2. So I totally understand why the judges put this in the place that it got. I do really like the way the hair was done. The hair sculpting was very clever. The head sculpting was very clever. It's just, if you compare it to the ones that had actions on top of just being the puppet, like the rolling eyes or the hat tipping or the eyebrows and stuff like that, it seems mechanically middle of the road, and I totally understand it. But yeah, I thought it was, all in all, good and safe. And it was good. Yes.
Yeah. What Jake was just doing was zooming in again to like the way that they did those sockets, those Technic like ball joint sockets, kind of like Bionicle-esque sockets as like their connector for the elbow and the top. And I guess they just got lucky that they were very sensitive in their movement and didn't break the way Michelle and Natalie's did.
Look at how shorter the segments are compared to Michelle and Natalie's.
Right.
There's way less stress on it, and also I think they were, as Michelle and Natalie were talking and like working on testing their model, I think there was a specific section of movement where if they moved it past that section, it would snap because the ball joint was like connected that way.
Yeah.
Where theirs, I think they put the connection points in better locations so that it wouldn't, because these ball joints work really well based off of how it's connected, right? Because there's the ball part and the socket part. If you get the ball part, the like stick that's connecting to the ball, too close to the socket part, you can really easily disconnect if there's a lot of weight, and I think that's what happened with theirs.
Totally. It's like how much stress you're putting on it too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally. Yeah. Jake. DJ Treats.
Yeah, this one was my favorite for sure.
SWB audio
the hair
capture,
was
not
like
registered.
very puppet-esque.
Right.
I don't think any other build kind of had an element like that I don't know, like it just made me think of puppets, like real puppets, because like a lot of puppets have those kind of like will have like fake hair or that kind of stuff going on. So whenever a build would kind of lean into the puppet stuff, I was a big fan. And I just noticed he does have like a kind of CD prop in his hand too, which is a nice touch, right? It's like
it's like a little disc.
And then is that like supposed to be a cupcake on his chest, like DJ Treats?
I think.
Yeah, I think that's a cupcake. Yeah, it's a cupcake with sprinkles on it.
Because I wasn't sure if that was like half of like a vinyl record or something. It's kind of hard to tell what that is.
I think it's a cupcake, but he's holding like a vinyl record.
When you see that it's called DJ Treats, you think it maybe it's a
that's
cupcake.
That's a treat, yeah, like a cupcake.
But if you didn't know that, then maybe. Oh, now I'm sorry to say it. It's DJ Treat, like it's a.
Yeah.
It's kind of there. All right, I'm just being dumb about it, but yeah, really good.
Andrew.
Yeah. Like Zach said, really big fan of this team. Super dynamic combo. I thought the build was solid. I think it definitely deserved the place it got, personally, just because other teams excelled in giving more features, and while the head was really great, I don't think that stood out as much as the others.
Right.
What I was hoping to see when they were starting the build, and I love the idea of a DJ, was like having a turntable in front of him that the puppet could kind of interact with, and I think they spent more time making a complete puppet with legs, but that's something we didn't even end up seeing in any of the performance or even commented on. So I think there was just sort of a missed opportunity there. And I think Dave and Richard aren't the most technical builders. They really excel in creativity and that kind of stuff. So
audio
I guess I wasn't
captured,
expecting
not
the
registered.
most features out of the build. But I think compared to some of the other technical ability that the other teams showed, it got the place that it probably deserved. So,
totally,
yeah.
I 100% agree. And Cheesy Studios also writes in, this is one of their favorites, or one of my favorites too. I was so impressed by the smooth movement of the head. Right. But I do hear you now that the head itself didn't have, like eyebrow and like eye movement, I guess, the way that some of the other teams did. But yeah, final conclusion is that this was the most puppet-like, I feel. Like, to me, personally. But yeah, again, they were looking for also just story and a lot more movement and a lot of like how much can you fit into this puppet, like little technical aspects that can wow us. So for sure, I think we're all pretty much in agreement on Dave and Richard. I hope that for them for the best because they're moving on and they've won so many times. All right, our final puppet we're going to talk about is, of course, Zach and Wayne's Pinocchio, the fencer. Now, Zach and Wayne, like, haven't really been in the top. They've been doing a great job. Literally, I think, Brother from Another Brick says, also, glad to see you here, says, I think all the teams excelled in this challenge. At this point, moving forward, every team's going to do something amazing. It's really hard to break it down for any of these judges. Like, they're gonna have a hard time asking anyone to leave going forward because everyone's just super uber talented at what they do. So end of the day, it's like you have to take everything with a grain of salt. They really have to start breaking down some of these teams. But luckily this week we got to see Zach and Wayne back in the top 2 with their Pinocchio fencer. What an incredible design. Again, very puppet-like, actually, I think, similar. That, like, its body isn't too wide and its head isn't too big and blocky either. One thing that I think Amy said about this that she really appreciated
capture, not registered.
as a judge was the cape feels very much like it would actually be like a real cape. Like, it looks like a piece of clothing that kind of moves in the wind or with movement, and it looks like it's draped over his shoulder perfectly. Zach and Wayne put a bit of their personality in it, as I think one of them said that they're a fencer in real life, have been fencing since they were really young, like 10 years old. So, they put some of that aspect into it. I love the mustache and the facial hair. And then, of course, the hat. The hat had legitimate movement because they were able to take the sword and move it up and actually have him tip his hat. Just those kinds of things are always going to wow these judges, I feel like. So that really helped them get their spot in the top. Thrawn, let's give it to you.
Was less impressed with the top hat, the tipping of the hat, mostly because to make that kind of mechanism is not super crazy. There's probably just like a bunch of hinges lined at the back and it's just not connected, and they just take the sword, tip it up. What I thought was more impressive was the eyebrows and the mouth moving at the same time.
That's what they said.
That's what made it really special, is that complicated rubber band system that they designed was very clever and very well situated inside the main body. As they also said, the flowing of the scarf thing, the shawl, also super good. It makes sense why they didn't win this one compared to the dragon, because you can see it's also still kind of blocky. The body's really thick. The arms are dangly. Kind of all of their arms are dangly, but you can see that it still has that kind of chunkiness to it. Then when you compare it to the dragon,
SWB audio capture,
it's
not
registered. It's not even the same thing, right? They're so drastically different. But it makes sense on why they got second, because they have, the movement of the mouth, the movement of the eyebrows, the tipping of the hat was very clever. The connection of the arms, I thought, worked really well for them, and the movement for the arms worked really well. I was really surprised that fencing saber didn't actually break, because when they started moving the hat, I was really shocked that didn't just snap. They probably just did a bunch of plates to do that, just a bunch of 1x something plates. But yeah, all in all, definitely deserving of their position. I think if they had sculpted their body a little bit better, similar to the brothers, then it would have done better. But yeah, still super entertaining to watch this one.
Right, I totally agree. Jake?
Yeah, I agree with everything. And this one was the most entertaining and really felt like a puppet character in a wholesome way, where even just the way they were performing with it and the tipping the hat and the mouth and eyes matching, it all came together in a really nice way. I think all the other puppets were okay, you made a cool Lego puppet, and are kind of like doing what the challenge is telling you to do, but I feel like they took it to another level when it came to like kind of creating like this whole character and like just making it funny and entertaining and like to another, and like just doing that hat tip, like that the payoff for that when it comes to like a puppet performance was totally there. So yeah, overall really great.
Andrew.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's funny, Thrawn, when you bring that stuff up and I'm evaluating the build a second time, I'm kind of seeing what you're saying and like agree with all the logic. I think where I was wowed was in the performance of the puppet.
SWB audio
like, it's
capture,
such a small
not
thing,
registered.
but I felt like the sword I really liked. I don't know why, it just added more dynamic to the hand movements, which I didn't see a lot of the puppets like lean super hard into, was like the moving of the hands. But when you see like an actual cloth puppet, that's a huge thing. It's how are the arms moving and bringing the character's actions to life. And so I thought this really excelled there, but I totally see what you're saying about it was what you would more expect with like Lego puppet and like a very blocky build.
It's just kind of that part of the body that's blocky there, like right here.
Yeah, and the cape does a good job in trying to cover it up.
If maybe that had a slightly different design to it, I don't think, and maybe the arm too. Yeah. It's kind of
interesting. They were one of the first teams to finish. I think. I mean, I don't know. Maybe that's just the editing. It's what it seemed.
It seemed like early on they were done pretty quick.
Yeah. So, but all in all, incredible. I mean, all the builds this week were just so good.
It's like you can only really expect the best at this point, right?
See teams go.
Yeah. So I mean, overall, what is Brother from Another Brick says? I feel Natalie Michelle should have got sent home. Yeah, we talked about that in the beginning. It's like if it did, literally no hate, no like. Not trying to like cause any drama, but I do think that Lauren and Brian probably should have stayed. Their puppet just had a little more personality, some more movement going on in the body, not as blocky looking. I was surprised that they stayed in. I was surprised by a lot of things this episode.
Yeah, the win and lose.
Yeah, the winners and losers I was surprised by. It sounds like actually most people, and including Thrawn, aren't as surprised. They definitely think that the dragon build was the best. But I would have loved to see DJ Treat up there in the top 2. It's just hard. It's so hard because at this point it's totally up to the judges. It's totally up to because totally not so you can't. It's hard to see where things are gonna go as far as who's gonna go home or not because they're all just so talented at this point.
SWB audio
that's why
capture,
a challenge like
not
this
registered.
is insane because it's totally out of everyone's wheelhouse. I don't think one of these people had ever put together a movable Lego puppet before. That's just not something you think about as like a Lego builder for the most part, at least from what I've seen. So. Yeah, overall, just another great episode. This is why we love this show. I guess final thoughts, Thrawn, for you, just on the episode as a whole?
It was a very interesting idea and very challenging. I think the reason why certain people did higher or lower compared to what we expected is because we all know at this point, since it's the last 6 teams, or now the last 5 teams, we all know they're good builders. They can all build incredibly well. They've gotten this far. Now it's not only can you build good, wow us with your mechanisms, wow us with your mechanics, wow us with your sculpting capabilities. Like, really take what you can do and push it to the next level. And that's why the top 2 were the top 2, is because one was the incredible sculpting with some really good mechanics, and the other one was just really solid mechanics and just really good design concept and all that stuff. All in all, I thought the episode, concept-wise, really good. The Will Arnett puppet, I wanted to strangle so bad. Oh my god, I hated it. I did not enjoy that. I found that so cringe. Ugh. Cheese Studios, I don't know how you kept a straight face. I could not. But yeah, definitely really fun puppet concept. I think is very unique. I'm very interested to see what the AFOL community is going to do after seeing this. I think we might start seeing like attempts at puppets. I'd really love one of Cheesy Studios' videos to now be, this is our dragon, and then the other team that was with them, the other brothers, to now do the princess, and then for them to reenact it on Discord. Please let this happen.
So totally, I agree with all
audio
that.
capture,
Brother from
not registered.
Says, I think the builders left are extremely strong. I agree. Cheesy Studios, Caleb and Jacob is saying, this challenge was so hard, can't stress that enough. And we could tell.
Can't
like,
even imagine.
Yeah, I can't imagine like walking into the stage not knowing what's gonna happen and seeing a puppet pop up, and not only like that you have to make a puppet, but this one specific Will Arnett puppet is gonna be going around and messing with you the entire episode. Like, I can't believe that.
Yeah.
When he's like 1 hour and is just screaming, it's like, oh my god. But that's like, they're going for that entertainment value. So yeah,
maybe
crazy
maybe
episode.
we'll like Evil Will next week more.
Yeah, Evil Will. We get Evil Will. I liked him for season 1 as well. Brother from Another Brick also says the first season, in my opinion, were half were good, half builders, and half were average. This season, most of the builders can build really good. Yeah, I mean, it's nuts. It's been hard to see everyone go, but it all comes down to these challenges. I think like there are some builders that got kicked off the show earlier that would have maybe excelled in this one, and vice versa. So who knows? Like, we'll see where they're going next. The next episode looks great. Thrawn, you don't like to watch them, right?
No, I didn't watch the preview. I don't know what the next one is.
I won't say anything.
You don't want
else,
us to say anything then,
Yeah.
probably. All I'll say is it looks like a very interesting idea and something
Yeah.
they didn't even attempt in season 1, and I never would have in a million years thought of until now, and it's like really gonna prove like what these teams can do. So I'm excited for next week. Overall, yeah. Brother from Another Brick also says, yeah, good job to everyone. I would have froze if I had to build a puppet. Bioscrawl says, yeah, I'd lose my straight face and cringe inside if I was with that puppet. So I hear you. Anyways, thanks for watching, guys. Go ahead and give this video a like. If you're just tuning in now, go ahead and scroll to the beginning of the video, as you probably missed a couple of our opinions from earlier on.
SWB
But yeah,
audio
that was
captured,
episode 8.
not
Thrawn, thanks
registered.
for being here. Jake, Andrew, thanks for being here. Andrew's dog,
Yeah,
Enzo, is whining off screen
He's
because
ready to
he
go play.
wants to go for a hike or something, so we'll go and do that.
Go pet Enzo for me.
Yeah. Let's see, can we get him on? Enzo, pick him up.
Enzo.
Yeah, you got him. Pop Enzo, there he is.
I'd like to see a Lego puppet Enzo.
Enzo's little cameo at that. That's great. Anyways, yeah. Again, thanks guys for watching. Hopefully we'll see you soon on the next. I think there's 3 episodes left, Thrawn. How many? 3 or 4?
There's 5 people left, so
5
it should
teams.
be
So we got 4
3.
episodes, right? 3 or
Because
4.
the
because you're
final
supposed-
is 2 teams.
The final episode is 2 teams.
Yeah, so 3 episodes left. All right.
Yep.
Well, thanks for tuning in, everyone. We'll see you guys soon on the next Lego Masters Live. Until then, get your brick on!